you doing, my man?
Hey, glad to have another week of football to watch this weekend, and yeah, man, just enjoying life here in Denver. How was the first week of 30 treating you?
I mean, hey, I'm trying not to think about it like that. I'm trying not to think about it. Birthday passed. I'm just trying to move forward and enjoy some games. And I always feel young when I'm on the sidelines. I'll say that much. But we had an exciting week of football. In the RMAC, we probably had the preeminent game of D2 football with Grand Valley coming down to take on CSU Pueblo. You want to jump right into it? Let's just break this puppy down. Sounds good to you? Awesome. We got some video by way of Malik Ellis. He works over at Grand Valley. He's great. You see Grand Valley, this was all Grand Valley in the first half. They kind of imposed their will. They had a 17-0 lead. This was their first play from scrimmage, actually. Just Khalil Eichenberger, big guy, low to bring down. But yeah, Grand Valley, they imposed their will in the first half. But Pueblo, Pueblo showed pretty well. The final score in this one's going to end up being 21-24. You're going to see Grand Valley still. This is still some first half stuff. Our second half highlights are by way of Pueblo, Hayden Everhart, a.k.a. Fiasco Films on Instagram. Check him out. That's Tyler Dvorak there.
Yeah, local product there from Cherry Creek. And look, this is a Grand Valley team. You got to give them credit. Every time I get to talk to the coaches around this league, about Grand Valley State, they're incredibly physical. They're big. They're fast. It's a great test for a team like CSU Pueblo. And look at what Mines did the last couple of years, having to play that school early in the season, kind of have that as a nice measuring stick, right? Kind of know maybe early on in the year, hey, where do we fall short? Where do we succeed? What do we need to work on against a quality team that here was in the national semifinal again last year? And I think, look, if you're CSU Pueblo, you got to love the way, certainly help to be at home, right? But you got to love the way your team competed in the second half, won that second half 21-7. And, Devin Larson ended up throwing 3 touchdown passes. Reggie Retzlaff is Reggie Retzlaff again. So, and John Nushi there on the defensive side, that was the eye-popping stat of the week there, 17 tackles. But I think, right, with CSU Pueblo, this team competed. That was their word of the week going into this week against Mesa, big game for them. But they competed with one of the very best teams in the country. And I think, shows you that this Pueblo team, while they didn't win this game, they're definitely for real. They kind of are who we thought they were the last couple of weeks. What do you think?
I think Pueblo showed well, but I also think they're probably a little bit disappointing themselves. There were a couple of things that happened that were a little, I don't know. I questioned them as I was watching the game, as I was there. Like that first drive, Retzlaff catches that long pass, goes down. Yeah, they get stopped in the red zone, but why not take the 3 points there? Why go for it on fourth down?
I heard Coach Vigil speak on it earlier. He said if I could do it again, I'd do it the same. But to your point, they 3 out of 6 in the red zone. You lose a game by 3, and you're only 3 out of 6 in the red zone, and that's got to hurt.
Even without the hindsight of knowing the final score, just when you got points, I'm a believer of if you got points on the board, take them. You know what I mean? So I think they're a little disappointed, but I think they'll be really motivated heading into RMAC play, which I think is bad news for the rest of the conference. But I feel like they have to feel like they could have won that game. I don't think they feel like, oh, Grand Valley was a little bit better than us, like we were close. I'm sure they feel like we should have won that damn game, and I'm sure that's a little bit disappointing.
100%. I think that's the takeaway for them. They said after the game, frustrated, disappointed, all those type of things as like I said, 3 out of 6 in the red zone. And not taking advantage of opportunities in the first half. I will say the one thing that jumps out to me on the stat sheet, certainly they ran 26 times for only 69 yards and gave up 239 yards on the ground. So, definitely something the Lakers could be exposing there. Not everybody's Grand Valley State, of course, in the trenches, but definitely some if you're a Thunderwolf fan. And that, as well as the kicking game, I would think coming out of this one for them, need to improve there. But certainly, I think as the season goes on, we're going to see that this Thunderwolf team is very much a threat, and that this Laker team is probably going to be back in the top 8, top 4 as the season goes along. So I think if you're a Pueblo fan, you certainly want to get the win, but you come out of this game, I think objectively feeling like, okay, we have a pretty good ball club that's going to have a chance to win every weekend.
Awesome. Well, our next game we're gonna play some video. It was a little bit surprising. The boys from Golden. This game with Washburn was a lot closer than people were expecting. Washburn they had some speed. They were tossing it around the yard. What'd you see watching this game, Miles?
Well, I was impressed with Washburn, especially their athletes. They made a handful of phenomenal plays. You saw one there on the deep ball. Certainly something Mines wants to figure out there. And then this play right here is a backbreaker as well. Faked on the reverse. Mines has been terrific in special teams here over the years, coverage, all the little things. And they hurt him for a couple of really big plays. And that's what kept the Ichabods in the game. So I was definitely impressed with them. They also didn't go away. There was a chance kind of third quarter. Mines had a 2-score lead and the ball. It looked like that's the point in the game where you're going to run away with it. And Washburn hung in there. So I think from the Ichabod standpoint, they have to feel great about the way they played. Look, for Mines, I think that the headliner here, he's the conference player of the week, but Landon Walker's a beast. Okay. We knew that coming into this year, but he looks really good. He's got breakaway speed for a guy that's 225 pounds. Antonio, I don't have to tell you, this guy would be a nightmare to try to tackle in the open field. Here's the missed field goal as the game comes to an end, as that one was short. But Landon Walker is going to be a huge weapon for this Mines team. I think that's something that people forget about Colorado School of Mines football. I don't have to tell you because you were around for an era where you saw a lot of Cam Mayberry, a lot of Michael Zeman, right? In the last 3-4 years, people have been thinking, oh, this is an open it up passing kind of team. I think they're that classic kind of modern spread team where they do want to spread you out, but really ultimately they want to play power football and go up the gut. And so Landon Walker is going to be a problem for a lot of teams. Max McLeod, that play at the end of the game was certainly frustrating. Wasn't a smart play there by Max. Now I'll give the credit to the Ichabod there on the flop. Okay. He sold it as well as you could possibly sell it. That 15-yard penalty definitely kept them in the game. And I'm afraid Max is probably going to have to miss the first half of next week's game as well. I think as well as you look at the stat sheet, Flynn Sheely, 7 catches, 90 yards. Nick Stone, 3 catches, 27 yards. Those guys are going to get even better as the season goes along. And so the last thing I'll say here about the Orediggers is they've had this type of game, as does every really good team, right? Where when you're the hunted, when you're the team that everybody knows is at the top or near the top, you're going to get a lot of teams' best shots. And so they've had this game throughout the years here where they've had to come back in the second half or pull one out that's close. But it's not about necessarily how good these teams are right now. As you know, the best football teams get better as the season has gone along, and that's certainly been the case for Mines here over this in this golden era, I've called it. They're in golden of Mines football as they've improved as the season goes along. So this will be a big one for them to learn from, kind of bounce back on, and hopefully play their best ball coming out next week.
Yeah, so kind of some of the chatter and reaction I seen online to this game was just the superiority of Super Region 3 and how Super Region 3 is just hands down the best region for D2 football, with the MIAA and the GLIAC being a part of it. And it was just crazy. Like in real time in the morning, we're talking about Mines almost losing to Washburn, and that's like a big, hot, trendy topic in the D2 world. But then later on that day, like Central Washington loses to Central Oklahoma, and then Pitt State loses at home to Emporia. It's crazy. Mines had a tough game, but they did win. So I think they deserve a little bit of credit.
On the road as well. Never an easy thing. And I guess one more thing I'll say here is Evan Foster played just fine in this football game.
Oh, yeah.
I think Evan Foster is who we think he is. 24 out of 30. He's a very good runner as well. And Mines will learn a few things, I think, out of this football game.
Heck yeah. Well, Actually, we're going to move on. We got some more video thanks to Titus Cleveland of KREX, my former news station. Shout out to KREX and Fox 4. And then Theo Smith over at Colorado Mesa. He works in their athletics department. He's a really awesome creative. Mesa started this game hot versus Central Washington. We got Colin Sturr coming up with an interception. They parlay that pick into a little drive. This is the freshman receiver. He's actually having week after week. This freshman receiver, he's showing up. But they're going to punch this in for a score. They had a 9-0 lead to start this ball game, but anybody that's familiar with Central Washington, they did what they do. They kind of just grind you away as the game goes along. They play good defense, and over time, they just start hitting big plays. You got Darius Morrison right here catching one up the sideline. We don't have video of it, but he actually threw a 35-yard touchdown pass himself. And then Kennedy McGill, I saw him as a freshman playing last year. He wasn't the full-time starter the whole season. He came on and played in the playoffs, went on that run. But you just see him growing up, like throws like that, standing in the pocket, delivering. That's big-time stuff. Mesa, they competed, but they ended up losing this game 28-12. And sorry, wrong slide. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Mesa, Central Washington, ended up losing this game 28-12. You see the stat line. Mesa didn't really do much in the passing game offensively. Mesa just they struggled in this one, and I thought their defense would keep them in it, but Central Washington kind of just rolled over them as time went on.
Yeah, like you said, I think Central Washington is just a grind it out kind of team. They're a frustrating team to play against. I don't think anybody sees Central Washington and goes, "Oh my gosh, what are these overwhelming athletes? We're going to get blown out of here." They just have an ability. Kennedy McGill, as well as a guy who's a really good bus driver and can do a lot of things, with his feet as well, and I think can be a guy that's more effective maybe than the stat sheet shows. We'll talk about the quarterback position here for the Mavericks. We got to get your take on that. But look, ultimately, I'm less concerned about the quarterback position and more concerned about getting outrushed 221-62 on the ground. So, every quarterback needs a good running game. So for the Mavericks, you got to get more rolling with the offense, and kind of a disappointing one after getting out to a 9-0 start against a really quality team. And I think we'll look back at this one as we preview the playoffs, I think.
Oh yeah, I think it's disappointing for Mesa, especially to come out with that start. You seen that crowd in the back. The town showed up. Seemed like there was a lot of excitement. Big game. A little disappointing, but Mesa's a team that's growing and on its way building. So I think it's a good learning lesson. Good experience for the guys. I think they'll move on, but we'll get to it later. But they got some tough sledding next week. It doesn't get any easier for their next week.
Big matchup against Pueblo. Yep.
Yeah, big matchup. But we're gonna head to Texas, Canyon, Texas, I believe it is.
Yep.
And check out Western. Ricky Freeman starting this thing off. They go down to West Texas A&M. Drew Nash is he like Josh Allen? Is he the D2 Josh Allen? This is second week with a huge long run to get the score.
He's definitely got some Josh Allen qualities. I'll say that Drew Nash is a big person, and for a guy that size, you see right here, he's not the tallest guy, but he is a thick guy, and to be able to have the kind of sprint speed that you see. Once again, this is kind of like the Landon Walker thing. Do you want to tackle that guy in the perimeter there, Antonio, if you're a defensive back? I don't think so. I wouldn't want to have number 9 coming my way. So seems like kind of by hook or by crook, whether it's the passing game or the running game, for Drew Nash, he's going to be able to put up some numbers this year, and then a really nice job by their defense as well. As I said last week, Sean Johnson's a phenomenal athlete there at West Texas A&M, and got them at home, and did a nice job grinding out a victory on the back of their quarterback there. 13 out of 26, 185 for a touchdown. Doesn't look like a whole lot, but then when you look at what he did in the running game, 16 for 133 and 3 scores. So yeah, Drew Nash. Hope you picked him on the fantasy team. He's gonna fill it up.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to true freshman Cameron Cooper, 6 tackles, half a TFL. That pick that you saw there, he did house that. That was like a 96-yard pick six, and that was a big play in the game, a pivotal moment. West Texas was driving to score and close in on that lead. So I want to give him a shout out. Ricky Freeman as well. The big defensive end. He just shows up. He's a grinder. He's relentless. I love his motor. He reminds me of you remember Jared? Is Jared Allen? He used to play for the Vikings.
Yeah, of course.
Just relentless.
Roping him up around after a sack.
Just relentless. Yeah.
He made a bid to be a Olympic curler as well. Jared Allen. There's a fun fact for you. But yeah, let's give a shout out as well to Braden Hogan there in the running game, because certainly with the talent they lost there at that running back position, Butler's not a guy that you can just plug somebody else in and play. He was a spectacular talent. So I want to continue to see more help for Drew Nash, right? And it would be great to be able to have the running game that doesn't involve the quarterback, because as the season goes on, I don't think you want to dial it up 16 times a game for your quarterback, even if he is built maybe like a bruising running back.
That's something you see Buffalo and up at the NFL level trying to. You see them year after year. They're trying to get James Cook going because they don't want Josh Allen running as much. So I agree with you there. But a big win, 2-0 versus LSC for Western to start their season, just like last year. So off to the races for Western once again. We're gonna move along to our next game. We got some more video by way of Andrew Lynn, KOTA, out there in South Dakota. We got South Dakota taking on Upper Iowa. Not a high scoring game. We got Hunter Newsome. That's my guy. He's always in the backfield. This front seven, I talk about it every week, and every week they show up on film. The question has been whether South Dakota is going to be able to cover or not. And today, this is going to be a touchdown pass they gave up, but for the most part, they held up in coverage, and I think that's what ultimately led them to the win. They didn't have a crazy offensive performance. Martinelli wasn't out of this world with the 400 plus yards like the previous week, but he was efficient, and he was able to get what he needed to do done to get the win. Showed off a little bit with the legs as well.
Yes, 78 yards on the ground for Martinelli. So I think we have a handful of teams in this league with quarterbacks like this that are gonna every single week, whether it's the passing game or the running game, they're going to be able to get theirs, 250, 300 yards. So Martinelli only passes for 153, no touchdowns, but does run it 12 times for 78. And like you said, that front seven is nasty. We love the way Hunter Newsome's playing early in this season, 2.5 tackles for loss for him. And then, Max Hodson is a guy that we knew would be extremely reliable coming in. We didn't know if Henry Dryden would play, just 4 catches for 12 yards. So maybe if Dryden is able to be a little bit more of a factor there, if he's healthier, that could be a boost to the Hard Rockers offense. But as we'll say, as I said with Mines, a win is a win here, and a second half shutout by that defense is big time as well.
Oh yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to Orlando Westbrook Sanchez. He's been on the roster for a few years. He's not always the starting tailback or the lead guy, but whenever he does get a shot, he always produces. The times I've seen him play, he's a pretty good player. I think he was instrumental in their win with his 78 yards and his touchdown. So good for them. That's all the video we have for now, but we still got more games to break down. Just a second. Our next game we're going to look at is Black Hills. They took on St. Thomas for the second year in a row, and for the second year in a row, hard-fought battle. They lost, but they showed well for themselves, I think. What do you think? Taking a quick look at this.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not an effort to hang your head about. If you're the Yellow Jackets, that's a Division I team on the road, and they hung tough with them. So I think once again, this is kind of a team that's showing us that they are who we thought they were a little bit. That their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. right? Defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. So Cameron Goods, a big day. TJ Chukwura just continues to show up with either a long play or a touchdown or whatever it might be. And then just so many different contributors across the defense for Black Hills State. So they're just really solid. I think they're a really well-coached team. They're probably, not going to blow a lot of people out, but they're not going to get blown out very often either. So just, competitive, sound. And like I said, that defense is going to keep them in a lot of ball games.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you've called a game of his. Malik Ritchie or Malik Ritchie?
I'm not sure, actually.
I'm going to go.
But that's a big day either way. Hey, 9 tackles, 2.5 for loss.
He shows up every week. If you check the stats every week, he's getting a couple TFLs, a sack. He comes off the edge. He can play. Cooper Brown as well. Showing up on that front seven. I love their defensive line. Zane Hood, he's huge, mean. I love
Aaron Thiele, another playmaker for them.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for them. Something I'm a little worried about still, though. It doesn't seem like they still haven't been able to really get the ground game going. Like Cameron Goods, he's showing up on our stat sheet, but he's showing up for receptions, not rushing yards as the running back. So I'd like to see them as conference play gets going. Get that running game going. We always talk about how I go back and I'm like starting to become this historian. Back when I was playing, they had a really, really good running back. I want to say his name was Fidel Paris. He went to Legacy, so Colorado kid. But, the kind of defense they play, you want to be able to run the ball, grind teams out. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see them keep working and improving on that in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I would say as well. And you never know how much this was matchup dependent, but you threw it 36 times. You only ran it 27 times. And so, Cameron Goods did average 4.2 yards a carry. That's fine, right? He just maybe needed some more work in this one. So, this was kind of a theme across a couple of the interconference matchups here for these RMAC schools is they got crushed on the ground. And not so much a crushing effort in this one, like I said, like it was for Mesa and Pueblo, but did get outgained here 144-69 on the ground.
Shout out to their secondary though. Look at that. Look at Michael Rosberg. I'm not sure. I didn't get to watch this game. I couldn't find a way to watch it, so I'm not sure if they run a special offense or something. But 7 of 22 for 72 yards. That's Strap City. I appreciate that. That's a stat line, something that jumps out to me every time. So shout out to that Black Hills secondary. They did their thing in that game.
Backup was only 1 out of 5 too. So yeah, these guys are really good across the board on defense. I know I say it every week. They're more than just a good name, but those Quinones boys on the back end are always making plays.
Oh yeah. Our next game that we have is, man, I'm very, very sad that I don't have any video for this. I really wish I had video to capture this moment.
We buried the lead. We should have started the show coming out. This is a Fort Lewis podcast, and let's go. Hey, we got in the win column.
Fort Lewis does it. Shout out to Fort Lewis, man. 5 years, October 5th of 2019. I want to say was their last victory. A long time coming, but they did it, man. They did it, and I couldn't be happier for them. Stonewalker's a baller, dude. This is his second collegiate game. He's just gonna get better and better. So I'm really excited to talk to the people. How do you feel about Fort Lewis finally getting over the hump?
I think it's great. As I said before, I'm a huge Johnny Cox fan, and a lot of this team is young as well. So I think they're still on the come up here. Jacob Penny, we've talked about him several times throughout the year. 17 tackles. One of 2 guys to have 17 tackles. That's just a redshirt freshman right there. So, or maybe a sophomore. So yeah, RMAC Player of the Week, well deserved. Stonewalker, one thing I think I've noticed here is that teams aren't going to let him beat them with the legs, right? He's going to continue to need to evolve and show teams he's going to be a really, really good passer as well. But you just have to be so excited for those guys. This is going to be a huge morale boost for Johnny Cox, who, once again, let's take a look at his history. He played for Fort Lewis. He went on to play at the highest level of the sport. He is a key to the city there in Durango. So he's got he knows what it takes to win there. This was a slow burn, a very slow process, but I think they're on the way up, and it's not like they're peaking here with a senior class. They've got some young guys, they've got some buy-in, and getting that dub has got to be huge.
Speaking of seniors, somebody I do want to shout out though, Jack Hannenberg. I remember Jack when he was a quarterback at Pomona. Yep. Went to Fort Lewis, played. He started some games as a freshman up at Fort Lewis, switched to linebacker, didn't leave in the era of the transfer portal and player mobility and everything, with a program that's been as lowly as Fort Lewis has. For him to stick that out and for him to see it through, just shout out to him. And he's balling. Now he's playing linebacker, 7 tackles, 2 TFLs, a sack and a half. Shout out to Jack Hannenberg, man. It's a dope, awesome story, man. I love seeing kids that persevere.
I'm with you. He actually quarterbacked one of the first games one of the first Colorado high school games I ever called here. So I'm with you. That's a great story, underrated one here in the league, and let's go Fort Lewis.
Heck yeah. Well, moving along, we got New Mexico Highlands took on Western New Mexico. I don't want to butcher. There's a special name for this game. They played for something. I'm not exactly positive, though, on what it was. But nonetheless, New Mexico Highlands, I think they showed well. 33-36 final. That's a close game with an LSC team. I think in only his second game coaching, I think Highlands, they're surprising me. Joey Cave, he's a baller, man. He can sling that thing. He can run around. I do believe he left the game with an injury, but you see even his backup, Jaleed Carter, 6 for 8, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's pretty damn good to me. Mason Peterson, he had another good game, doing a little bit of it all, carrying the ball and receiving it out of the backfield. They lost this game, but I think Highlands, I think they're kind of trending up in a weird way. What do you think?
I totally agree. We mentioned this as the season began. They weren't going to be a team that probably got out to a hot start. A lot of newness there. But, one of the things I like is that, 8 different receivers caught a ball. They ended up throwing it for 287. They ran it for 160. They're pretty well balanced. I think over the course of time, they're going to be that, kind of hard-nosed, defensive, running game type of team. But really nice for the new staff to be able to have a guy like Joey Cave that can sling it. And like I said, he's another one of these guys in the league that can run the football as well. So, Cave is going to help make sure they're in a lot of football games.
Yes, I think so as well. Moving along, we got Adams taking on UTPB. This is just tough sledding. I hate to do this, but I need to go grab my charter. So I'm going to let you handle this one, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, let's just run through a couple of the stats here. And this one is UTPB shut out Adams State there in the first half. More tough sledding for Coach Harrison's guys. But Chase Nelson, 9 out of 20, 84 yards. Alexander Grotto, 3 out of 7, 49 yards. This is a really good team in UTPB, as we know, a team that can really light it up on offense. They threw it for 306 and they ran it for 306. So they went for north of 600 yards. There will be better days here for the Grizzlies, but we knew how many players they lost on defense, how much work they had to do coming into this season. And I think this was one, unfortunately, relatively expected here as UTPB. They have a tendency to blow out inferior opponents. And this is just a high quality team. Antonio, I was just mentioning that UTPB ran for 306 and threw for 306. How's that for balance? But this is just a really tough team. The Falcons are going to do this against a lot of folks. And I think this is kind of a tough one to measure where Adams State is improving or not improving, because it's the team that's going to do that to a lot of folks. And with a lot of new names, new bodies, especially on defense for them, this was a tough one and was relatively expected, I think.
Yeah, tough scheduling. UTPB, reigning LSU champs, coming off a game where they kind of got bullied a little bit by Pueblo on their home field. Kind of expected Adams to have a tough go of it. So, hey, tough one. I think this is one of those games where you do you watch the film of this game?
I did not know. I just got to look at the highlights.
No. I'm asking if you're the coach of this team, do you watch the film on Monday,
Oh
or
yeah, no,
is this one
I
of the
think you
games
have
where you
enough of.
quiet? There's
Yeah, I
certain
think.
games that you do just, you know what, fellas, we're not gonna dwell on that one. We're just gonna let that one go.
Well, I think one thing you can do when you come into a game like this is you can say, "Hey, we're going to watch what those guys do on that side. We're going to try to learn, a little bit from them." But I think, like I said, I get about CSU Pueblo, that this is a game you can look at and really learn, what you need to work on against a high quality team, where you want to go. But like we knew that the spread for this one was 31.5. So I wouldn't mind the idea of burying the football here, moving on, and calling it a day on this one. They probably got enough looks at the Falcons there with 612 yards of offense rolled up.
Yeah. Well, speaking of moving on, let's take a look ahead at the week to come. We're in conference play. Kind of got the little blown out screenshot here. Sorry about that. But we got some. We starting the slate. Mesa and Pueblo actually got moved up from a 2 o'clock start to 11 o'clock, so they'll be kicking things off. Then we got Mines heading down to Nebraska to take on Shadron, followed by Highlands in South Dakota. Up in Rapid City, Fort Lewis they're taking a long road trip too up to Spearfish to take on Black Hills, and then Adams going to Western to play the Colorado Classic for it's going to be the 77th time, maybe something around there, I believe. But nonetheless, Colorado Classic this weekend, full slate of conference games finally getting to play each other. Looking at this, give me some takeaways from week one of conference play. What are you most excited about?
Well, I am excited just to get these teams playing against each other, have a little bit more volume of information to be able to process it as we move through the season. Obviously, I think we're all excited for Pueblo and Mesa. I think this is maybe the right type of game for Pueblo to come off of that Grand Valley State game. Last year they had to play Colorado School of Mines. That's was a very difficult task. So I kind of wouldn't want to be Chadron or Mesa here with Chadron facing a team in Mines that didn't play their best. I think a lot of those guys walking into the facility on Sunday and Monday were probably pissed, didn't like the way they played, want to play better. Chadron's coming off a week off, but that's not a good thing, right? A team that just got their attention, and then to our point earlier about Mesa playing a team here in Pueblo that lost the game, maybe they feel like they should have won. I think in a lot of ways, Pueblo probably gained a lot of confidence. Hey, look what we can do against one of the best teams in the country. So I'm definitely excited to see those top teams and exactly what they can do. I think really we've solidified at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong. The top three in no particular order are certainly Western Colorado, Colorado State Pueblo, and Colorado School Mines.
Yes, I would agree. Well, let's go to the tail of the tape and let's take a look at all these games. The preeminent one, Mesa and Pueblo, in my mind, Mesa coming in at 1-1, Pueblo 2-1. You see the difference in scoring. Mesa doesn't score very many points, but they don't give up very many either. This is a game beyond these stats, having had a couple weeks to watch and whatnot. I really feel for Mesa. This is going to be a really tough game for them. I feel for the conference. Reggie Retzlaff he's gonna feast on everybody, and I think as good as Chance Fuller was last year, I don't think he had the live arm that Devin Larson has.
and the arm that Devin Larson has, I think the ability to hit big plays downfield, it's just uncanny. I think this is going to be a tough day for Mesa, if I'm being honest.
Well, look, Pueblo showed us last week. It doesn't really matter who the opponent is. They're probably going to roll up 250, 3 touchdowns. It's going to be really tough to stop their offense, and that wasn't even with the running game going. I'm a big fan of Rakowski in the return game. He's explosive. He's going to pop one at some point. And then, to your point, Larson's lethal. They have a bunch of weapons, and like I said, I think they're a little bit frustrated coming off that victory. And look, this is a very good opportunistic defense as well. And if Mesa, we'll have to get your take here. We'll go to our mailbag, we'll call it. We solicited some questions coming into this one, but we'll see who Mesa plays at quarterback. They don't quite know. Maybe they do. We don't know exactly who's going to be the quarterback there. So can they run it better than they ran it last week? I don't know. Can they throw it better than they threw it last week? Maybe, right? But they're going to have to score a whole lot more to keep up with this Pueblo team who looks really, really good right now.
Yeah. I think Mesa's best hope is, a start just like they had this past week, a turnover, get an early lead, and, hopefully they can build on that. But if I'm being honest, I think this is going to be a tough game for the Mavericks. And, I say that as a former Maverick, I don't. It's not like I want them to lose to Pueblo. I'm just being honest here.
Now, let's pick it against the spread because that always keeps things more interesting. They've got Pueblo at 22.5. Now, I went ahead and picked Mesa to keep it closer. I like Mesa's defense enough. As you know, they've got some quality defenders on the back end. Not saying they're going to stop those CSU Pueblo offense, but they might not roll it up for 50 here. You think they can cover 22.5?
The score last year was 59-20 Pueblo.
I'll confirm that for you, but sure.
22.5. Was that the score, please?
59-20. Yes, it was indeed.
All right. I'm going to take Mesa to at least cover. They're not going to get beat by over 22.5, right? I don't gamble, so, give me a break, people.
This is what makes picking against the spread so hard. That's why they got those big buildings out there in Vegas. It makes it a lot more difficult, right? But no, I'm with you. I think Pueblo by 3 scores, but by 3.5, maybe not. I'll take Mesa plus the points, but Pueblo big comfortably here, let's say.
Yes, I agree. Mine's heading down to Chadron. I wonder what the spread is on this one. Looking at
31.5.
I'm going to take Mines to cover it. And that's nothing against Chadron's defense. I think Chadron has really good defense. I think the statistics bear that out. Yep. That's just Chadron is, from my understanding, going to be starting a true freshman quarterback in Wyatt Sprague. And I think Mines' front seven is going to get after him and make his life a living hell this weekend. So I think Mines will cover in this one. What say you?
Yeah, 31.5's a lot. This is a good defense for Chadron State. They can make some plays, certainly with their front seven. It's a relatively inexperienced offensive line for Mines still at this point. But yeah, I think Landon Walker's going to get it going. You're going to get a frustrated Max McLeod back out there
in the second half.
And you know what? They're really, really deep at wide receiver. I know I'm going to sound like a homer all year, so just bring it on, I guess. But Flynn Sheely would be an alpha dog. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? If Max McLeod wasn't in town, we'd all know who Nick Stone was. We'd all they haven't gotten the tight end position going yet like they expect to.
Hey, Dirksen got a touchdown. I called out Dirksen's name. He scored in game 1.
Yeah, he did. He did no catches last week, but Dirksen's a stud as well. So yeah, I think they're gonna keep the running game going all year long. I think that's gonna be a much bigger part of their identity. Landon Walker is a wagon in the open field. But 31.5 is a lot. I think Chadron, I'm going to have a hard time picking against Mines, even against the spread. I think that's probably a pretty fair line. But back to my previous point, I don't think this is a week. These Mines kids, think about the way they're wired. They are just excellent human beings in terms of the way they manage their time. They don't take many L's back-to-back weeks, okay, in terms of the way they wouldn't have been engineers playing football at Colorado School of Mines if that's, kind of their mentality. So I would expect for them to bounce back, play a little bit cleaner, and take this one easily.
I take them like it's no disrespect to Shadron. I question whether Shadron with a freshman quarterback will score any points on Mines at all, and I don't think Mines getting to 31 over the course of a game is that crazy. They did that in a game that they just struggled in.
And let me tell you this as well. The teams that have beaten Mines have done it with dynamic quarterback play for the most part, throughout the Harding game. But dynamic quarterback play, teams that have come in one-dimensional, hey, we're going to run the football, Jake Marshall, we're going to be the hammer to the nail. Mines has been able to stop those type of teams and turn them into teams that have to throw it, and that's not, I think, what Shadron State wants to be right now.
Okay. Moving along, we got Highlands going up to Rapid City. That's going to be quite a drive, but nonetheless, what's your initial takeaways on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a fun game to watch, right? We like the quarterbacks playing in this game. We playmakers. So I don't think we're going to be totally devoid of points here. I think South Dakota Mines is clearly so far has demonstrated they're a better team than New Mexico Highlands. So we got the spread at 17.5. I did take the Hard Rockers there, maybe as the extra boost, being a huge travel day for those guys going across the whole region. And I would expect Martinelli and company, maybe they get a little more healthy play out of the tight end. They'll be able to score enough to outpace New Mexico Highlands here.
I think I'm very excited to see the matchup of Mason Peterson. I want to say his name is the running back. The running back for Highlands do it all back just against his front seven. This is going to be fun. He's had 2 good games. He's about to play a really good front seven. I just want to see when him and Hunter Newsom meet each other for the first time. But as far as picking the game, I'm going to go with SD Mines, but I don't think they're going to win by 17 points. I think Highlands blew out in game 1 because they played a triple option in their coach's first game, and that's really, I don't think people even understand how hard that is. But in game 2, when they played a traditional team that runs a traditional offense, they lost by 3 points. I think
the La Battaglia Bowl, by the way, was the name of that game.
I knew it had a name. Do you know what like is there a special trophy involved? Like what's
I don't. I could learn that for you here in just a moment using the Google machine. But
speaking of that, I can't wait for the Mines Mesa week. I already got like old content of me with the Nikos Cup that I just can't wait to release out.
Love it. Love it.
But
yeah, I think that the spread makes it tough here because I don't think South Dakota Mines is a team that even with an explosive quarterback in Martinelli, they're going to have a hard time really truly blowing people out, right? Yeah. And New Mexico Highlands, look, they're scoring 35 points a game. They're running for 202. They're passing for 281. I don't care who you're playing. It's not easy to go for 480 of offense in 2 games in a row. So I think they're going to have enough offense to stay close. And South Dakota Mines, I do think will win this game by a couple of scores. I might go back and change that pick to the
I got SD Mines winning, but definitely not covering 17.5 points. No. This is a good one. Okay, look, let me set this up for you. Fort Lewis finally wins. We're super jazzed up and excited. Does the snowball effect start now, or what?
I would love that to be the case. I think they're running up against a team here in Black Hills State that might be too mature, too just solid across the board, right? They're going to have to get their running game going a whole lot better. Fort Lewis might be just what the doctor ordered to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think Fort Lewis, look, when they play I think teams like New Mexico Highlands and Adams State, do they have a chance to get some conference wins this year? Yes. But like I said before, I don't think Black Hills State is going to come out and just have a stinker too many times this year. I think they're just solid across the board. Their defense is really, really solid. They don't allow a lot in the running game. They're mature on that side of the ball. They're heavy on that side of the ball. They cover. So this will be a tough one for the freshmen at Fort Lewis there. We've got the spread here. Now, I might like Fort Lewis to cover this at 34.5. So they got the boys from Black Hills State winning by 5 tutties in this one.
The disrespect. We're coming off a dub, bro. What? 34.5?
Like I said, though, do you think I'm wrong on this is a tough opponent for them, a more mature team coached there by Coach Bresky? They're probably not going to be sneaking up on Black Hills State here.
They're way tougher because they got it in the trenches where I think Fort Lewis is still building in the trenches.
Exactly.
But when you have a quarterback that can move, it's a great equalizer.
Always is.
It's a great equalizer. Look, for half in that game one, we watched as Fats Johnson was able to move around versus that Mines defense and give him some fits. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I don't think 34.5. Give me Fort Lewis to cover that. I think Black Hills will win. I don't think they win by 35 touchdowns. Jesus.
And once again, like I said earlier, I don't think Black Hills State, while they're not going to get blown out by anybody, are they a team that's really capable of blowing you out? We haven't seen that from them, certainly. So I did take the Fort to cover. That's a pretty big spread, though. You could win the game. Hey, you could be up 42-0 at the half and not cover a 35-point spread. So
yeah,
maybe even a backdoor cover here for Fort Lewis, but they're going to cover 35.
Hey, shout out to once again, we already talked about him. He won Player of the Week, Jacob Penny, and his running mate Jack Hannenberg. But that's a defense that gave up 400+ yards rushing in week one. You know, they played a lot better last week against Arizona Christian. I think they deserve a lot of credit for that because I'm sure they were hearing the noise, and we live in this social media age. I'm sure they've seen those graphics going out all over.
They might be seeing us right now. And you know what? If you're watching Fort Lewis, let's go Skyhawks.
Let's go Skyhawks. And then we got the Colorado Classic. How you want to tell me how wrong I was on what number in the annual series this was? I guess 77.
I don't have that in front of me, but let's find out.
I guess 77. How well?
You break it down while we're looking that up here.
Okay, we got Adams State coming in at 0-2. This is tough sledding for them again. You know, just tough scheduling. You coming off playing UTPB, conference champion, and outside the top 25, but a fringe top 25 team, and then you're playing Western Colorado, a top 15 team, solidified. So this is going to be tough sledding for Adams State, but it's a rivalry game, so. You never know in a rivalry game, right?
You said is the 77th?
That was my guess, 77.
It's your day. Might go buy a lottery ticket. It is the 77th Colorado Classic here between these two teams. Yeah, I'm with you. This is a tough matchup here for Adams State. Western Colorado is going to be kind of a no-nonsense type of team in that I think they're going to largely beat the teams that they should. Because they have a really good defense. They should be able to run the ball. You're probably not going to hold Drew Nash and company to less than maybe even on a bad day 3 touchdowns, right? So, I'll take Western Colorado large in this one. But once again, we got to keep it interesting here. It'd just be easy to say we're going to take Western. So how about once again, we got a 5-touchdown spread. It's 34.5. For the Mountaineers over the Grizzlies. What do you got there?
34.5. I don't think they win by 34.5. In all fairness, I shot this game last year. I think that's why I remembered what number the annual one was. I actually went up there and shot it. So don't think I couldn't get a lottery ticket. I'm not that good. But I went to the game last year. Western won comfortably, but Adams, they have their moments. And, it's early in the season still. I don't think I don't know. I'm not a part of these teams, so I don't know what injuries are like, but I would guess at this point teams are still pretty healthy and teams still got a lot of confidence. I don't think any team's confidence is crushed just yet. So 34.5, I think Western wins by 2 scores, two plus scores, but not 5. Over 2, less than 5.
Okay, I'm with you there. Yeah, I think, it's always true about football, especially like outside of the high school level. Teams are never maybe as good as we think they are. They're never as bad as they were the previous week. So I would expect, look, they're playing scholarships, they're paying coaches. We're going to bounce back here at Adams State at some point. This is not a complete bottom of the barrel program by any stretch there for Jarrell Harrison. So I would expect that they would be able to cover 34.5. Once again, even if Drew Nash and company get out to a big hot start, is he going to play 3-4 quarters with a football? This might be an opportunity for Western. If you do get up big on somebody else, to get Drew Nash out of a ball game, take a little bit of wear and tear off of that young man. Look, what had to be one of the takeaways from Jazz Baines last year? They want to finish better than they did this year. So I'm with you. They'll win by a couple of scores. It should be an easy victory for them, but 5 touchdowns is going to be tough.
For the spread to just 34.5, like Western, if Western has a 21-0 lead, Western's not going to push the envelope. You know what I mean? They're just gonna run the clock out and just beat you up on defense. Like I don't 34.5, that's crazy to me.
Agreed. Jazz Baines isn't UTPB. This isn't a team that just, is going to score 80, right? They're going to get up and they're going to be relatively content with that. Okay, let's get to our questions that we had from the group chat, from the folks on Twitter. Let's start, and I'm going to ask you this question. Should there be a concern in Golden with Mines not completely dominating the Washburn game like it felt like they did in week 1? Or is this expected beginning of the year, different pieces, and it's an away game in a tough conference?
It's a whole new team every year. I think a lot of us get caught up in what teams were, and you gotta understand every year it's a brand new team. The way it's constituted, the way teams win games, lose games, it's all a different journey. So I don't think mine should overreact too much. You won a game on the road against the vaunted MIAA. So, hey, maybe it was a little tougher than you expected, but, I think a little adversity is never bad for a team that has big aspirations. You better learn how to deal with adversity if you want to win big and win late.
100%. Concern, I would say way too early for concern. The last, let's take a look at what they did in 2022. They lost their first 2 games, right? They ended up playing in the national title game that year, and they were a buzzsaw. The quarterback won the Harlan Hill. So, adversity early on, having a game where maybe you don't play your best ball, you get guys' attention that way. You get better attention to detail. You go back and you have teachable moments. And once again, I'm going to sound like a homer here, but I've been around this program long enough to know they're not a fully formed product. No football team is, okay? But the more you talk to coaches, the more you learn that teams truly do evolve and improve as the year goes along. And when you talk to a position coach about a guy, and it makes it seem like they didn't have anything in week 1, and oh my gosh, think about all we learned by the time we get to week 13, week 14. So, no, I would not say concern. Should they go struggle with Chadron this week? Maybe we could have that conversation.
I will point out again, too, that other teams in the top 5 MIAA teams lost games that they were predicted to win. Mines won theirs against a team, a lower MIAA team. So,
they gave up a kick return touchdown. They gave up an 80-yard touchdown pass. They had their best player ejected late. A lot of things didn't go their way. That game could have easily been more like a 17-point Mines victory. We're not even having this conversation.
Is that it? We got more.
Okay, that's right. I'm the one bringing up the questions here. So let's see what else we got. How good is Black Hills defense? They gave up just 1 touchdown in week 1 against St. Thomas. They really only allowed 2 touchdowns. short field on the final one. Just how good do you think the ceiling is for Coach Bresky's boys on the defensive side?
I think they could be. I was going to say top 3, but then I'm thinking about it. I'm not going to say top 3, but they're upper echelon. I don't know. Like, is their defense better than Chadron's too?
Hard to say. I think they're in that range. I think probably Mesa's right there in that category as well.
I can't lie. I'm a little upset with Mesa's performance this past week. Like, Mesa maybe dropped a notch for me defensively as comparatively to what I thought they'd be like. They're really good. They're not the elite of the conference defensively. Like, I think of Western, like I think of Mines, but they're pushing that envelope, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm less in on like, hey, that's an elite team that's gonna win them games. They're gonna win games 7-3 because they're gonna, But I think they're super solid. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really, really quality, well coached team. I don't know how much upside they have in terms of being a dominant defense, but I think it's certainly possible. All right, let's talk about the quarterback position in Grand Junction. Who do you think should be the guy for Mesa? That's our final mailbag of the night.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's Leslie Richardson or Liu Amave. I want to say, I believe I pronounced that right. But it doesn't matter which it is. It just needs to be one. I know you guys want me to say one or the other, but I mean, neither one has really distinguished themselves above the other in my eyes. Leslie maybe has some more turnovers. Leslie's had more opportunities. Leslie, if you watch the games, Leslie's usually running for his life. When quarterbacks are running for their lives, they throw picks. That's football. But I don't think either one has done. I mean, I guess maybe Liu is more accurate passing, but can he do what Leslie does with his legs? That's not an offensive line that I think is just, I don't think they've matured to the degree that they will maybe by the end of the season or next year. So I think you need a guy that's a little bit mobile. Either or, it doesn't matter. Like I said, you just need to pick one, and you need to tailor the offense to whoever that is. If that is Leslie, you need to tailor the offense to him. And if it's Liu, then you need to tailor the offense to him. But every week when I build the graphics, I shouldn't be able to put 2 quarterback stat lines on the page. You got to pick one.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't know just a ton about these two guys individually, but what's the old saying? Well, when you got 2 quarterbacks,
you got none.
Right.
Fair state.
So you got to have one. I'm with you there. Any other final thoughts this week on Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference football?
I'll be down in Pueblo again for the Mesa game to see my alma mater. So I'm excited to see them. I only got to see them once last year against Western. So I'm excited to see the Mavs in person. I think they do have a good defense. I'm a little disappointed in their performance, but I'd love to see them surprise me this week and shake things up. What do you got going this weekend?
Well, this week, I got to be honest with you. As much as I love football, I love being outdoors just as much. Last week, I got in most of the football just for what it's worth. I wanted to go camping again this weekend, but it looks like it's going to rain all weekend, so I'm going to be posted up watching nothing but ball all Saturday, all Sunday. So that's not too bad a consolation prize for myself. And then, of course, I have lots of high school football going on, but I'll be looking forward to getting a look at that Black Hills State defense in person in Golden next weekend.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure if Golden's will be at next weekend, but pretty soon we'll see each other in person again.
Looking forward to it, my friend.
Heck yeah. Well, hey, another fun episode. I'm looking forward to getting back with you next week and seeing how all these games play out, see how wrong we are.
As always, and like I've said every week, we're rooting for all these student athletes here in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. Best of luck to everybody. Appreciate everybody watching, and be good to yourselves, be good to others. We'll see you next Wednesday.